host, JB Owen, and I'm so happy to be here again and again. I say that every day. I'm so happy to be here because I'm delighted to bring to you new ideas, thoughts, and suggestions on how you can ignite humanity in your life. And this show is all about tools and tips and strategies on the things that you can do incrementally, little tiny micro movements to move the needle on igniting humanity. We all have to be making our effort because now more than ever, the world is changing, it's shifting, and what we're doing is moving it in a direction of positivity and benefits and all the ways that each and every one of us can live in the center of what's possible for us, and we can have it all, truly have it all, and live the life we want in the center of our happiness with an amount of inner peace. We just have to work to get there together. We're going to do this together, and that's why we have this show. And I'm coming to you live from Los Angeles to share with you some of the amazing people that I've been exposed to that are truly moving the needle in humanity. They are doing big things and small things and incremental things that are actually creating what I call the ripple effect. The ripple effect. One person ignites their life, which ignites someone else's life, which then ignites another and another. And as you can see, that is what is going to ignite humanity. And it's not through policy and it's not through education. It's actually through connection, because the truth is we all have to believe that we are together and connected in this way that we have never been before. Each and every one of us has access to the other. We have the ability to connect through social media, through travel, through what we're doing right now, through television and streaming. And we have the responsibility to share powerful content that is going to uplift one another. And so I love to bring to you guests that are doing just that in new and innovative ways. We don't want to be boring, folks. We want to be on the cutting edge of what's happening because humanity is moving faster than it has ever moved before. And we want to be able to be a part of turning it into something positive and beneficial so that we have incredible future for ourselves and for the next generation. And so sit back, take some notes, and get excited because you have the power to ignite humanity. You and the things that you do and the essence of yourself, being exactly who you are, has the perfect recipe to ignite someone else's life. And we do that through Ignite Moments. Ignite Moments are those times in our lives when something happened that triggered us to go in a new direction, a trajectory, a shift, a change, a 90-degree angle towards something that ultimately became the better version of ourselves. Now we're all learning, we're all evolving, we're growing. But the truth is, sometimes these things happen very quickly and very dramatically to push us in the direction of where we become a better version of ourselves. And those moments, I believe, are what is going to ignite humanity, because those moments talk about perseverance and dedication and determination. And that is the human condition that we all can relate to. It doesn't matter where we come from or how much money we have in the bank or what language we use. Tenacity and the human spirit is what brings us together, and that's what we're talking about on this show. If you've got something to share and you've got an Ignite moment and you have been igniting humanity, we want to hear from you. So just reach out to us at ignitehumanity.life/share and tell us what you're up to, and you could be a guest on our show. Well, let's dive into it because I know that this interview is going to be lots to talk about and we're going to learn a great deal. I'm happy to welcome to the show a good friend of mine, Jason Estes. We're going to talk about this, a leader and an innovator and a thought leader in the quantum field. And this is a new topic for many of us. Jason's going to break it down and make it easy for us to instill it in our lives. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, it's so great to be here because I know you and I, we love to talk and unpack and unfold and really dive into what's happening in the quantum field. Now, some people, our listeners, are like, what is that exactly? Can you break it down so that everybody can understand the power or what's going on in our universe with the quantum field?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first thing is we've all heard electromagnetic frequencies as a concept, or EMFs, right? That's the lower range of the quantum field. Then you have scalar, which is the next level. Then you have the understanding of time itself. So this is where it gets interesting, right? Because we have this bubble that we consider all of reality. But outside of it, we also still have the quantum. So time and then quantum. So quantum is here and here. It's the whole thing. So basically, what it means to understand quantum fields is that we acknowledge that there is so much more infinite nature to everything. which is great because that means that we have time working with us, not against us. So that's one of those things that the average person is always like, well, time's working against me. And it's like, okay, but it's not really because you have infinite time. And then they're like, oh, I never thought about it like that.
So is the quantum more about power and energy, or is it more about time and space?
Ooh, that's a good question. The quantum is all things, right? So I would say that it's about all of those things, but it's really about what is it for you. So the most common thing that we understand about the quantum field is that it is infinite resources. So infinite time, for instance, infinite resources for your health, your wealth, like all those things. We live in a world with scarcity mindset everywhere we go, right? Like everywhere it's like, well, I gotta do this thing. Oh, but I don't have enough for this or that, right? But all of that is keeping us from realizing that we have everything we need, just not yet everything we want. So that space between the two worlds is where we start to realize, okay, well, if we actually connect in a quantum way, we understand that we have all of that. So what's stopping us from having all that now is ourselves. And so as long as we begin to work on that, everything changes. So instead of going, well, I don't have enough time, we go, what can I do to change and make more time?
So again, fascinating, and I love this, and we're going to really unpack it. So is it that the quantum is new, or is it something that's always been around, but we're just now newly talking about it?
It's always been around. It's infinite. So it was beginning and it's the end, and it will always be. So for us, we're coming to a point where we're realizing that that slow amount of reality, that 0.02% of reality that we call all of this, is not everything. That it's not even a percentage of reality. Like, think about that. We believe everything in this really, really small space when we have all of this. So no wonder we look at scarcity as a way of looking at the world, right? The lens of scarcity is there because we look at 0.02% as all of reality. So the quantum is really just us acknowledging, oh, well, actually, there is more than enough. And there is more than enough in this. And there is more than enough in this. And so as we unpack that, we start to feel this openness occur instead of this closedness where we're like, no, this is mine and only mine.
Right. And there's not enough. And I
yeah.
better grab this. And I better put this in my pocket because what else is somebody else? Have we been using other words in the past to sort of refer to the quantum?
Yes.
What have we been saying?
I would say people use magic a lot, which I love because it's a good word for quantum. Anything that's indescribable or inexplainable at that level is always magical, right? And I love magic. I think wonder is one of the most valuable things that we have in this world, and oftentimes we take it for granted. We literally live in a miracle. Like, this whole world, everything we're in right now, everything we see, somebody dreamed up, but it wasn't always here. So if you don't have what you need, you can dream it up. Hence why I do what I do and I build the things that I build, is like, well, I don't have what I need right now, but I know that I can build it because I'm infinite. If I don't have what I need, but I know that I need it, now all of a sudden I have how to build it, how to do it. And that's the beauty of our lives. That's what every person on this planet is capable of, is taking that moment to go, well, if I don't have what I need right now, why not? And then start working towards that.
But it's not faith. It's not like, well, I hope that it shows up, or I wish that it's going to unfold, or I'll just sit back and wait for somebody else to do it.
Yep.
It's really about, and I talked about it at the top of the show, if we're going to ignite humanity, we have to start with self.
Yeah.
And so how does the quantum work within ourselves?
So I'm going to go through a story of mine because I think it's the easiest way to explain this.
Yes, please. We love stories.
Yeah. So in the Marine Corps, I tore all my muscles and nerves from here all the way down my back. And I lost the ability to use my hands and my arms.
Wow.
And it was a really rough time because I didn't realize why. But once I realized why, everything changed. So I was laying in Iraq and just couldn't do anything. Couldn't go exercise, couldn't do anything, right? So people started coming up to me and they started telling me their problems. And I listened to them and I started to realize, okay, I can actually help you with this. I can support this. And that purpose ignited me. It helped me to realize something. And that purpose was like, okay, well, if this is what the world wants from me, if this is what the world needs from me, if this is how I can give back, I'm going to need to get my arms back because I like to talk with my hands, as you guys can tell. So I began to like close my eyes and imagine my body doing jumping jacks. Imagine my body doing push-ups. And in 6 months, I actually had the ability to use my arms again after I was honorably discharged from the Marine Corps. So I was told that I would never be useful again. I was told that it would never work out, right? And I ignited myself into this moment where it was like, well, there's still purpose, there's still reason, but it's not what I thought it was. You see, I had a scarcity lens. I had a point of reference where I was like, this is what I'm here for. And God was like, Mom, this is not what you're here for.
Right.
This is so much more than what you're here for. And again, that's that infinite. So for me, that was my quantum moment. The moment where I began to realize that this small reality I'd built around myself wasn't real. That this box was actually keeping me from realizing the infinite nature of what I was capable of.
And the fascinating thing is the box is actually in the mind, right?
Yep.
Because the box, there was no box that kept you there except the box you had created in your mind.
Yep.
And that comes from teachers, dogma, education, government, all kinds of different arenas. We create these boxes in our mind. How do we smash those boxes and, make it so we're free of them?
Well, the first step is realizing that your brain has this thing called the reticular activating system. For those of you out there, this is highly recommended that you look this up because it will change your life. When you look up the reticular activating system, you start to realize that you have a limiter in your brain that tells you what is real. And guess who trained that limiter in your brain? Your parents. Their misunderstandings, their misconceptions that were trained by their parents, that were trained by their parents, that were trained by their parents, all the way back to the very beginning of time. So in our heads, we have an infinite space of time telling us what we can't do. It just takes one action to break through that. Because when you do something that you couldn't before, your reticular activating system goes, oh, and let's go. And that actually expands in this box that once held you. Instead of it being something that holds you hostage, it begins to be a drawing board that you can paint your dreams on.
So kind of like when he broke the 4-minute mile, correct?
Yep.
Is that correct?
Yeah.
And then as soon as it was broken, then multiple people broke it after because we suddenly now realized it was possible.
Exactly. And that's the very value of what it means to be a teacher, in my point of view, is can I show you something that you didn't see before? If I can, then I've created room for a new infinite possibility to exist within you. And that's what I love about your show, what I love about all the things that you're doing, is you're creating an ignite moment for somebody where they go, oh, that's possible? Wait, I didn't know that. And that reticular activating system just gets a little bit weaker every time. So
right, and that box just suddenly doesn't feel like a box anymore.
Exactly.
You and I have talked before, and you said it so beautifully. In fact, Jason brought me to tears the other day. Tears of joy, tears of excitement, tears of being seen and heard and acknowledged. And we talk about that on the show. Every person on the planet needs to be seen, heard, and acknowledged. And we talked about ignite moments, and many of us have had an ignite moment that has changed our life, and we can look back at it in the past. You and I love dabbling with the idea of creating new ignite moments, having the ability to bend reality and to use the quantum field to create our upcoming, our yet to be ignite moments. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, so the first step to this is really being present today, right? So the hardest part about being present today is the acknowledgement that you have everything you need because you're alive right now. So anyone watching this right now, you guys are alive, which means you have your health. Even if you don't have it the way you want it or whatever it is, but you have it. So the acknowledgement of where you actually are is the first step to changing the future. If we can't acknowledge where we are because we're here instead, the past, then what happens is we take the past to create the present, but we never have a future. And so we end up creating another box here with no future. And so we spiral into this box and get smaller and weaker, right? But to break that pattern is very simple. Act on one thing. So I tell people to commit to something. I call it the great pause, but it's I am committing to blank. And then you do it immediately. And the moment you do, you've now proven something that you didn't know you had power before. Do you know what you've just changed? You've actually created a commitment, meaning you've created something in the future that you have now moved forward in today. And you're bringing your divinity into that action. So you're actually letting go of what I call the entity or the unconscious mind. You're actually saying, hey, in the past, maybe I didn't have the power and strength to do things in the future and to have the discipline to complete it. But right now, I do. And right now, I'm present. And so one of the most powerful presence teachings in the world that I know of is putting the tongue to the roof of your mouth. This is simple. Anyone can do it. And if you
tongue to the roof of your mouth.
Yep, that's it. Just like that. And then just be in that space. Anytime that you're in anywhere, the moment that you feel it fall down is the moment that you're no longer being present. Process the trigger. Whatever it was that caused your electrical system to no longer be able to do that, that moment is the moment where you're now behind here. You're in the past again.
Wow.
And as long as you're in the past, you have no future. You only can hope to someday be present. But the moment you become present, you begin to build your future.
Amazing. So let's just unpack that again. The moment you become present, and it's true because a lot of us are living in our story.
Yep.
You know, we're caught up in grew up here, had this, parents that, didn't do this, didn't have that, didn't make this. And that story is sort of replaying itself over and over and over again. And you're saying come into the present where we are right now,
Yep.
gives you the power and the capability to decide what I want my future to look like through this new lens, this current day lens, instead of looking at it from the past lens.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's quite bravo. I love that. I do want to also say that I think a lot about the things that we feel quantum potentially is happening around us and without our knowledge or power or influence, and that isn't really the case.
So the quantum field is available to everyone equally always. Right.
Everyone equally always.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not prejudicial.
Nope.
You know, it's not selective, and it's no favoritism.
Exactly. But it's whether or not you want to connect to it. And see, this is the struggle for most people is they're like, well, but my worth isn't high enough. And it's like, the quantum field never said, hey, you have to be at this high to ride.
Right.
It never did that. You know, it never once was like, well, you got to be exactly this. You have to have this much in your bank account. None of that. It's just like, hey, all I want to do is give. What do you need? That's the quantum field. 24/7, always, in every moment of your life. It's always been available, ready. The problem is that we say, I don't think I'm worth it. I don't feel like I can actually achieve this thing. The quantum field says, well, if that's what you believe, then I'll go over here. And you're like, okay, cool. So you're walking away from me. And it's like, well, no, I'm always around you infinitely. But if you want me to go away from you, I'll go away from you. And this is what we've learned with observer perspective, which quantum science is starting to prove more and more of, is that when we look at something, it changes. And the more that we have an expansive nature with it, the more that it can change. So actually we can prove quantum magnetism now. We can actually begin to show that everything, as long as it's not forced, actually builds on top of each other. Which is one of the most valuable things you're ever going to learn in life, is that the moment you force something, you actually kill the quantum magnetism. And that's scientifically provable now. We can actually show you what happens when you add force to something, it collapses the field.
And why is that? Because a lot of us are forcing our careers, or forcing someone to love us, or forcing money to come, or forcing friendships. Why does it collapse the field?
Because when you put pressure on something, you're no longer infinite. It's coming from a scarcity or some form of lack. No matter what, anytime you have a pressure, like think of a time that you've either been pressured.
Really wanted it.
Yeah. Anytime you've been pressured or somebody has pressured you, you feel this like, oh, it doesn't work. I love the high ticket sales as a concept, right? The biggest selling people are just people that just communicate. They're just like, hey, and they have a really fun conversation with somebody or whatever. And then the person's like, oh, I actually want to buy the thing. And you're like, okay, cool. It didn't matter, but I'm glad that I got to know you, right? There's a whole process with it. Because when you're trying to get something, it's very unique how this works. Like if I need something, then I've already lied. Because I'm already alive right now, so I don't need anything. I believe I need something, which makes me in scarcity. And the moment I do, I've killed the field.
And it's interesting because when we feel in that sense of want, like I want this, I need this, all we're doing is perpetuating the want, the wantingness.
Yeah.
Versus the allowingness, or is it the flow? Is it the acceptance? Is it the knowingness? What's the word that we can grab? I love, as an editor, I love the word. What's the word? Is it allowing? Look at me, I'm like, tell me, what is it?
Yeah, allowing is a great one. Yeah. But wanting is perfect, right? There's nothing wrong with wanting. It's that in our minds, we've been taught that our needs and wants are the same.
Oh, very good point.
Yeah, and so until we unpack that and we actually solve that there are two different things, we never are going to get what we want, because we're always in this struggle to get what we need, but we already have what we need. This is what I teach my students. The first thing is like, hey, you have everything you need. And they're like, no, I don't. Oh, I'm like, okay, but are you able to take a breath right now?
Right.
Then you have what you need.
Right.
Now, do you want this? That's totally okay. In fact, the quantum field wants you to have that.
Right.
But the struggle is, do you know the difference? And the average person doesn't. They think that their needs are their wants, and they're not allowed of their wants, right? Because they're like, well, if my needs are my wants, then I can't dream, right? And that's that past, present. All the past can ever hope to be is present. It can never achieve the future. Wants are things that you do not currently own or have, right?
Right.
So what does that mean? It's the future.
Correct. Well, I'll dial it right down because I'm a Disney buff. And so the Aladdin and the Cave of Wonders, right? He went into there and it was infinite. It just seemed no matter where he looked, there was just infinite wealth and infinite abundance and infinite opportunity. And yet, he chose the one thing that he needed to just go forth in his dream. And so do you feel that each and every one of us, I always think we all have the Cave of Wonders and there's that one thing we need. And in fact, I watched that show as a kid, realizing that there's a genie in a bottle for me every day. Is the quantum a little bit like the genie in the bottle?
Yes. Yeah. In fact, that was actually the best explanation I've had anyone explain back to me. Especially the Cave of Wonders and all of that.
Exactly. And so people were wondering, Jason, how did you get this way? How did you understand it this way? What's your story? What was your Ignite moment to push you in this direction?
I think the biggest one was probably the Marine Corps thing, like I said. Having the opportunity to experience the Marine Corps was, and that's the only way I can describe it, right? I knew myself before I went in, and then midway through, I didn't know myself anymore. And then at the end, I got to learn myself again, but as a better version of me, a more disciplined, more grounded version of me. And that Ignite moment for me was just being able to be there for others in a way that because in the Marine Corps, what they do is they build you up as this thing, right? And you feel so proud to be a Marine. And then when you get injured as a Marine, there's this moment where you're like, am I not valuable anymore?
Right. Who am I, right?
Yeah. And then for me to lose my arms and the ability, I literally couldn't do anything. I couldn't even shave. I still remember doing this right here to shave. And that was some of the most painful things. There's still some pain here for this.
Right.
But when you know, that's the level of will and drive.
Right.
When you don't ask somebody else to shave you.
Right. Because
you're this strong Marine. You're not going to give up no matter what. So that will and drive, losing that value that you had been told that you had. And this is one of the most valuable things ever, is nobody can tell you how valuable you are. And the Marine Corps told me how valuable it was. So it had to go away, right? I had to lose that I was only valuable as a Marine. And that was one of those things where when that was taken, I had to find new value.
Right.
And what I actually found was a true purpose, a level greater than what I had understood growing up. I wanted to rebel and break away from things. So I joined the Marine Corps because the whole world was going through a thing. 9/11 had just happened. I was like, you know what? I'm going to go for my country. This is going to be amazing. It was anything but amazing. I will say that. Now, the discipline and the value that I gained, I still think the Marine Corps was one of those turning points for me.
Right.
But truly the most valuable thing for me, hands down, was the moment where I helped somebody not commit suicide. Because I was in MRP, Medical Rehabilitation Platoon, right? So everybody there was injured too. And because I was injured in the way that I was injured, I had nothing but time.
Right.
Everybody else could still go and work out and do all these other things, but I couldn't do anything. And instead of getting upset about that and complaining and everything else, I was just like, guys, I got nothing else I can do. I've got infinite time. Anyone have any problems? Let's just talk. And so I became the counselor for MRP, and just people kept coming and coming and coming. And I kept feeling my purpose coming back online, igniting and igniting and igniting until I was so full and whole again that I was just like, okay, this is great. Now, during this, there was a really hard time, right? I was addicted to Oxycontin, didn't know it at the time. There was a lot of struggle to get out of that, right? Because when you're in excruciating pain because you've torn everything,
of course,
the Marines just give you a ton of drugs. That's their solution for that. So to come out of that.
Right.
Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's their understanding.
That's all they know.
Yeah. So I would say that was probably the strongest Ignite moment for me, was being in that space where not wanting to shave with my knee anymore.
Well, so much about it is fascinating because you talk about the quantum, you talk about being a Marine. These are big things, but what you really boiled it down to is listening to somebody else, being there for somebody else, allowing somebody else to hold space for them. That to me, anyone watching this show can be that person. Listen to someone, hold space for them, be caring, and then know that you can make a difference, because we all can make a difference in different and unique ways.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's supposed to be unique to us. I'm making a difference my way, you're making a difference your way, and that's really, in my opinion, what's going to ignite humanity when we accept and admire and value and acknowledge all of that.
Yeah, I call it the lighthouse for the lost. So the moment that you ignite and you become bright, you become a lighthouse for the lost. And most people don't know what a lighthouse is really for, right? Lighthouses don't show the light on you so that you go blind. They're just there. They're a guidepost, something that acknowledges where something is that could be dangerous, right? Or that shows you a different path. But they're not broadcasting in the way of like, hey, you have to follow me. This is this thing, right?
Right.
It's simply, here's the information. Now do with it what you will. And that's something that I've always loved about lighthouses since I was a little kid, is like, we have this ability to realize that we are that we're like the lighthouses for the world. But if we're dark, if we're hidden, we don't have that. And so your Ignite moments, the things that you're talking about, and I don't know how much you've shared, so I'm not going to go deep, but your dream for the world is so many lighthouses getting lit up. And that's why I was so honored to be asked to be on the show.
Thank you.
Is because that's what you're doing. You're literally creating the lighthouses for the lost until there is no more lost, because everyone's on fire and everyone remembers themselves.
See, he's going to make me cry again. You say it so beautifully, and you make me think of, we talk about a candle lights another candle, but can you imagine if we're all the lighthouse and we're beaconing the light to somebody else?
I can.
Yeah.
It's been my dream since I was a little kid.
What a beautiful vision. I'm glad we're doing it together.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for being on. I know, it is just the beginning. Absolutely. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
As you can see, there are so many unique conversations that come when you start thinking about the infinite, and it's infinitely possible for you to do anything and everything you dream of, and you are the lighthouse for somebody else. Always believe that. You can shine the light in the direction that somebody else needs, and somebody else can shine the light in the direction for you. And that means we all have to step up. We all have to try. We all have to make that effort. In fact, try is a lie. We all have to do it. We can do it. And it just takes one small incremental movement each and every time. It just is about awakening and understanding, creating new solutions and ideas, all the different themes we have every week on the show. And of course, Jason talked about giving. You have to give. If you want to receive, you've got to give, and you've got to give just yourself. It doesn't cost us anything to listen to people, to be there for them, to just be a sounding board or a safe space, or just something to know that they matter. They're important. As Jason shared, he saved someone's life just from listening to them and made a difference for them, and you can do it too. If you want to know more about ways to ignite humanity, please reach out to our website, ignitehumanity.life, and you can see all the things that we're doing to write a book about powerful Ignite stories where people are igniting humanity. We're doing a documentary about how are we going to ignite humanity and who's doing it in the world, and then a docu-series about people in their powerful Ignite moments. If you'd like to be on the show and tell your story, please do so. Go to ignitehumanity.life/share and fill out our type form and tell us about you and what you're doing and how you're shining a light on someone else in the world, because we would love to have you on the show. And then if you want to do something really special, we'd love for you to help donate to our charity. We are igniting children's lives and igniting literacy by building schools around the globe. Every single dollar that you donate buys a brick in one of our schools, a fabulous brick made from recycled plastic that we put in the walls of the school, and each and every dollar buys a brick. And we know that you could be a part of igniting a child's life by donating to our program, ignitehumanity.life/donate. And your gesture today could make a huge difference in someone else's life. And we know that when we ignite ourselves, we ignite somebody else. And when we ignite them, we will ignite humanity. All right, take care. I'll see you tomorrow.
Now, more than ever, we need to come together to connect with one another. We need to feel the truth in who we are and let go of everything that's happened in the past. We need to empower every person on the planet and awaken hearts, enliven souls, come together, laugh, play, rejoice, connect, create, and love. It's time to ignite humanity. We want you to be a part of something that will impact the future for everyone. We want you to tell your story, share your Ignite moment, show people who you truly are. Be a part of igniting humanity and making a difference in the world and all of our futures.